Yeah, it is another episode of the Auto Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today.
Let's try to have some fun today.
The Las Vegas Raiders went to Buffalo, New York. The Paris of New York, I've been told, after spending the week in West Virginia. Opening drive could not have been more tits. 7 points, easy money. Trey Tucker, fantastic 34-yard carry. Buffalo Bills get the ball, 3 and out. Defense shuts them down. The best possible start the Raiders could have had. And then it was all bad news from then on out. Raiders get donkey punched by the Bills, 38-10.
Yeah, it was a rough situation, man. As good as the game started, you're not going to sustain an entire game plan with misdirection and stuff like that. Like, you have to actually have some, just winning plays with effort and skill. You can't always scheme around things. You can only do that for so long. And that first drive was great. It was perfect. Misdirection, a lot of stuff. We had them chasing the wrong direction. A couple of screens, stuff like that. It was great.
Jimmy G-string dropped a fucking dime in double coverage to Devante. That Trey Tucker design was perfect. That first drive, that's what I thought we were gonna get. Like drive in and drive out with Josh McDaniels. Like, just fucking beautiful play design, timing. It was all gorgeous.
Yeah, it just you need to be able to win up front, and we got just absolutely destroyed. Both of our lines got destroyed today, and you can't win. There's no way you can win that way.
I'm running out of synonyms. Mollywopped, donkey punched, destroyed. Like, on the front, it was brutal. I don't know where to begin, Juan. Where do you want to begin? We fucked up. We didn't do a pregame show, like a preview of this show. And I wish we would have, because my big thing would have been, so Josh Allen had 27 turnovers last season, 14 interceptions, 13 fumbles, right? He had 4 last week. So my big thing was, like, I think we touched on it briefly on the podcast. It was like, all right, something has to give. Either this defense that struggled with getting takeaways will get takeaways, or Josh Allen, who's been just like a turnover machine, can't wait to just like jizz the ball over to the defense, will stop. And we saw what happened. We're 2 weeks into the season, still not yet one takeaway by this defense. And the defense has given us, the open field tackling has improved. Other than that, it's the same old defense from last season. No takeaways, no sacks, penalties at the wrong times, just awful. And even turnover machines like Josh Allen. Last year, we played some of the worst quarterbacks in football. About half of the quarterbacks we played had the best game of their season against the Raiders. And it seems like that trend's still continuing.
I think more so than because our defense is our defense. That's who we are, right? That just shows you how poor of a team Denver is.
It's nice to at least own one team,
right? So Buffalo really changed what they did, and Josh Allen played like a much more under control, subdued player.
Do you think he did, or do you think the defense just wasn't able to do that?
No.
Because he was running away. He was throwing crazy balls.
No. He wasn't throwing crazy balls. He was running away when he got pressure, but he wasn't taking chances down the field. He was going over the middle a lot. He was throwing short passes. He wasn't pushing the ball down the field like he was in the first game, trying to get big chunk plays. We didn't allow big chunk plays. We allowed chunk plays that missed tackles and stuff, but no, it was a completely different game plan by Ken Dorsey and the Bills, and Josh Allen did a good job of following the game plan. And see, look, this whole thing about, they're going to be angry going into this week, it's overblown. It's bullshit. Every team's going to play hard every week, right? Mm. It's the game plan was different. Josh Allen was a little bit more under control, and he was able to use his weapons, and he had a lot of time because we didn't put pressure on him. And because of that, he was able to pick us apart. And that's why, look, if he played like Josh Allen played, we would have had more chances to score because they would have scored quicker. They didn't score quick. They had like 40 minutes almost possession. And so it was the other way around. They dinked and dunked us like Denver did, and it took a long time. They just moved the ball up the field, took a lot of time. It was completely different than what the Bills normally do.
Buffalo had 74 plays to the 39 that the Raiders had, 450 total yards for Buffalo, 240 for the Raiders. It was we joke about how it's like, oh, just double, like if you're an offensive coordinator playing the Raiders, double team Maxx Crosby and then do what you want. We joke about that. That's literally what happened. There was triple teams of Maxx Crosby. There were times, and it was like tight end tackle, and the running back would chip Maxx Crosby. There were multiple plays where 3 guys got a piece of Maxx Crosby. And because Maxx Crosby is Maxx Crosby, he still had like 6 tackles or something like that. Like I'm looking it up right now. He had 7 total tackles still, despite basically every play, double or triple teamed. And the Buffalo Bills were like, you know what? We don't give a shit about anyone else on the defense. We're just gonna make sure Max is not a factor, and then we're gonna do what we want. And they scored 38 points with that mentality.
It's terrible. It's terrible. The everything starts with us, and this game was the line. The offensive line couldn't run block. They couldn't pass protect, and the defensive line could not get pressure. Josh Allen was back there with a clean pocket all game, and that's the only way we're going to win games with our defense is if we get pressure and forced mistakes, and our line played terrible.
Raiders had 2 sacks. Spillane had 1. Diablo had 1, which is the same as last week, but it was different than last week where Josh Allen wasn't under pressure. He just wasn't at a stroke. He wasn't having to. I mean, he had to move around a little bit here and there, but last week, we got Russell Wilson to have to throw the ball away a little bit, got him under pressure and make some mistakes. Same amount of sacks, but nowhere near the pressure problems, etc. We'll come back to the defense. So offensively, this is the biggest one for me. And this is the biggest concern moving forward. And this is the biggest concern I think we'll be talking about for a while because our $12 million running back, Josh Jacobs, 9 carries. Do you know off the top of your head how many yards he had? Do you have it in front? Do you have it in front of you? I'm just curious.
My phone's off.
Yes. Guess how many yards he had.
He was in the negative. He was probably -4, -5.
-2 yards.
Yeah.
9 carries, -2 yards for the leading ball carrier in the NFL. So the run blocking last season was below average, despite having a Josh Jacob, despite having the NFL, rushing leader. We were average as a team, as a rushing team. We were like 16th or something in rushing yards, which is wild considering we had the leader. Like you had the all-pro rushing leader. And then you remember Josh Jacobs had 900 yards after contact. Like he was just, and we talked about last week how he had a bad game. He had like 2.1 yards per carry or whatever the number was, but he had like 9 broken tackles. He had the most broken tackles of week 1, right? That's continued into today. We thought maybe it was like, all right, Denver is just loading the box. Like, hey, let's just take Jacobs out of the game. We'll let Jimmy G beat us. And we thought Buffalo Bills, bad rushing defense. This is not a good rushing defense. This is not.
They gave 6 yards. They gave 6 yards a carry last week to a team that you knew had to run the ball because Aaron Rodgers was hurt, and they still give up 6 yards a rush last week.
If you take away Trey Tucker with that beautiful end around, that 34-yard end around, if you take that away, the Raiders rushed for 21 yards on 14 carries.
Yeah, dude. I think Van Roten is as bad run blocking as Bars was pass blocking.
Pick your poison at right guard.
Consistently, he was being pushed back. Ed Oliver was pushing him back 4 yards into the backfield almost every play.
Run game actually atrocious. Run blocking atrocious. And the run game was given up on pretty early. And I guess I can't blame them. I mean, it wasn't going anywhere. And this is gonna I can see the national media turning this into Josh Jacobs wasn't in camp. His timing is off. He's out of shape. He doesn't know the game plan. And, obviously you want Josh Jacobs in camp. Obviously not having him in the preseason, not having him in camp doesn't help, for sure. But this is on the O-line. He was consistently dodging tackles in the backfield every time out. I mean, this is on the O-line run blocking.
It's a huge area of concern that we can't run the ball with the leading rusher in the NFL. Look, I don't want to think that maybe Josh Jacobs is not giving the effort that he did in the past. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that whatsoever. What I'm saying is
my eyes don't say that, and the stats aren't saying that with how many tackles he's breaking.
Well, on that pass play, that said it. That interception, that was ridiculous. But there has to be some kind of balance between what you're seeing and what. There's something always stuck with me. I was watching an old tape back when Eric Bieniemy was the running backs coach with the Vikings, and he was coaching Adrian Peterson really hard. And he was saying, look at this play. Look at that first step. Look what you're doing. Look at this. That's not who we are. We got to do this. We're better than that. We got to make this first guy miss. There are certain things that running backs just have to do in the NFL. And most of it's on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. Most of it's on the offensive line. But you have to wonder, missing that much practice time, how late are you recognizing certain things?
There's a reason why there's training camps and preseasons and practices beforehand. It definitely doesn't help. I just can't put the blame at the feet of Josh Jacobs when there's the defensive tackle in his face 4 yards in the backfield pretty consistently. Pretty consistently. It's not like, we'll go back and we'll rewatch the tape. But it's not like they're all handed to me. Something yelling at me right now.
You went mute for a second.
Hold, please. Mute site. I'm not putting this on Josh Jacobs' feet. I'm putting this on the O-line.
Well, I'm not saying it's all or even most or even a quarter, but that he does take some responsibility. He's out there running the ball. Mm-hmm. And to get negative 2 yards, again, it is the O-line. Don't get me wrong, everybody. But the running back does have some measure of responsibility as well. But no.
Chad Cockerell. God, I hope that's a made-up name. I hope that's a stage name.
That's his real name.
That's a great stage name if that's your made-up name. So far, Josh Jacobs is only costing us $260,000 a yard. I hope he doesn't bust loose for a big one, because then we can't afford him.
Who can?
A 150-yard game, we got to pay him $30 million.
Yeah,
it's $12 million running back.
We got no push up the middle from our defensive tackles. Our offensive line, our guards and center got pushed around. Mm-hmm. It was overall was just a terrible game, and you can't win. You can't win if you can't actually run your offense.
I would say the tackling wasn't terrible. I would say more scheme than anything. I mean, when it was an open field situation, we generally got the tackle, more or less. I would say it was more scheme than anything. Like, people just weren't in the right play. Like, I think this Raiders defense is more fundamentally sound. And again, this has been the worst defense in the last decade in the NFL. Like, ESPN ranked the defenses of the last decade. This is the last one. Like, it's been awful. Turnovers, sacks, points per game, tackles. It's been awful, right? I would say fundamentally, this is one of the better defenses we've had in a while. DBs are more or less in the right position most of the time. Open field tackle, generally the guy's there, right? And with the defense this bad, that's improvements. That's steady incremental improvements. But schematically, we're getting bent over and smacked. And we don't have playmakers. Again, like, I bring this example all the time, but like, the Gus Bradley defense, bad defense, but it had an identity. We're not going to let you beat us with big plays. And they didn't. They beat us with everything else, but they didn't beat us with big plays.
Well, that's what we're doing now, though. We're doing something very similar. Last year, we played very little zone defense. Mm-hmm. This year, we're playing a lot more zone defense. The problem is we're not getting sacks. We're not getting pressures. We're not forcing the quarterback into mistakes.
Not getting turnovers. Zero turnovers in 2 games.
How are you going to get turnovers when the quarterback can just sit there and pick apart the secondary? Mm-hmm. And that's the issue right now with our defense, because look, we knew that we were on defense, we were going to live or die by our defensive line. If our defensive line got pressure, if our defensive line put pressure on the quarterback and caused him to be off his spot and maybe off timing, then we were going to be able to get some turnovers. But that's not happening. We're not getting pressure on the quarterback. We're not forcing him into bad plays. And when you play zone as much as we're playing zone right now, we're basically playing Gus Bradley's defense. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get the pressure, you're not gonna get turnovers that way.
London Raider, going to be a long season with PI flags and he picked up for no reason. So that was a weird one. Was that second quarter, that pass interference? That was a big one. It was a big, like, it was a long ball. It was the longest throw Jimmy Garoppolo threw all season, and he like way underthrew it. Like Tucker had like his guy beat.
I was having flashbacks from the previous seasons of phone balls.
He was beat, and it was just like a super underthrown ball, but it turned into a PI that for whatever reason got picked up. And I know it's like the knee-jerk reaction for Raider fans, and rightfully so, to be like, the refs screwed us, because there's been so many games where the refs have screwed us. It's a 28-point loss, boys. It's a 28-point loss. Like, Helen Keller could have been reffing this game, and Raiders weren't going to win. Not going to happen.
The real shitty part is all the momentum that we had from the first game, it's all gone. Because it's the same stuff that we've had in previous seasons, plus more now. At least we were able to run the ball before. We can't even. There's no continuity between the running back and the offensive line right now.
Well, and you're going to hate to hear this, but with no deep ball threat with Jimmy G, it's less debilitating to load the box, right? Like, you can be like, we don't need to go too deep. You don't need to have like anyone that far off the line. We can load up the box. People just kind of like back up when it's not a run play. It's just not a good schematic offense for Josh Jacobs. Like, it's a schematic offense based on Josh Jacobs and this line overcoming the hurdle, as opposed to like taking advantage of a hurdle. Rory Jacks, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. Graham needs to mix in some man. Seems like 90% zone. Love the show, guys. Thank you, Rory.
Thanks, Rory. Appreciate it.
I wasn't keeping as track of man versus zone, but it's a weird situation. Like, when you have liabilities in DB, which we do, and when the basis of the defense is the D line has to be the core, which should be the goal, because our DBs are either, other than Nate Hobbs, it's either like veterans coming off the worst games, or, worst seasons of their career, or young guys still trying to figure out what they are. You got to lean on your defensive line. But with Josh Allen, who can run the ball, you kind of want a little bit of zone to be able to spy on him, right? If you go just full man and you turn around and you see the backs of their numbers, it could be a recipe for disaster. So, look, when you just gave up 38 points, it's hard to say that whatever we did defensively was correct. But I do understand Patrick Graham's mentality here, where it's like, look, you can't let Josh Allen run buck wild on us. We got to pick our poisons, and they picked the zone poison, and it was almost 40 points.
Again, it all comes down to pressure. And when he was pressured last week against the Jets, he made a lot of bad decisions. He didn't have to make bad decisions because he was able to wait and find the good ones. And we didn't speed up his clock at all. And it was target practice for him. He was basically doing a 7-on-7 drill.
So a couple Josh McDaniels giant foul ups that I want to bring up to you, and I want to hear what you have to say about that. 3 minutes left in the game. You're down 28. Devante Adams is still playing football. Jimmy Garoppolo is still playing football. Your starters are still playing football. Jimmy G throws a ball to Devante Adams in triple coverage. Devante gets a helmet to helmet. That'll be a fine for the Bills for sure. Forgot the name of the DB that hit him. That'll be a fine. Devante gets taken to the locker room. If he's in concussion protocol alongside Jacoby, that's brutal. What the fuck are we doing? Having our starters in garbage time, down 28 with 3 minutes left.
It makes zero sense.
What is that?
It makes zero sense to have him out there. There's I kind of knew it from Devante walking off the field without his helmet. You only do that if you have a concussion. If they suspect a concussion. So right now, Bleacher Report just put an update that Devante Adams may have a concussion, and yeah, he probably does with that hit. It's just inexcusable to have them out there down 28 points with
you take out Josh Jacobs, who you're not going to have next season, and have Zeus play, but you have Devante Adams, who you want to keep for the next 3 seasons, still playing.
It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And, I can't. I don't know, man. I can't understand it. Honestly, It doesn't make any sense.
Brutal decision. What else do we got? All right, Jimmy Garoppolo. Seeing Jimmy G. Jimmy G, 16 of 24, 185 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Both interceptions pretty rough. The first one, he was like, I think it was Van Rotten that just got it was either Andre or Greg that got murdered. Do you remember? The interior got destroyed.
It was Andre James.
It was James? Okay. It was one of
those. Harlem got fucked up a couple times too.
And he just got eviscerated. And so Jimmy G had it was a play action. He turns around and there's a defensive tackle in his face. He should have thrown the ball in the dirt. It's hard to put all the blame on Jimmy G on that because you turn around and there's a 300-pound dude trying to rip your head off. And, what do, right? Throws a bad ball, gets tipped, interception. The second one, he threw into coverage. It was just a really bad decision on him. And this is what I said last week, and this is what I've been saying all preseason, is Jimmy G is very consistent. He's efficient, but he'll give you 2 to 3 like face palm plays. You're like, you do the Python where you do this, right? You put your hands behind you. They're like, what was that? Right? You get 2 or 3 of those per game. We got our 2 or 3 of those per game from Jimmy G. Those were 2. One of them was a really bad interception. The other one was like an offensive breakdown where he fucked up as well. Choosing your words carefully.
I don't think anything worked on any side of the ball, any part of this game. I don't think anything really worked out the way we wanted it to at all. And that's also alarming because we took the team away from their families, put them to West Virginia for a week to focus on this specific game. And all that went well was the very first drive. So what are you doing within the game adjustments to be able to keep the game close, to be able to keep scoring? What are you doing? And nothing seemed to work after about the middle of the first quarter.
Theron J, let's trade McDonald's for a cardboard cutout of a Corona girl. I'm more of a I feel like the Bud Light girls are the hottest. Like if you had to pick any of the beer cutout girls, I'm kind of a Bud Light guy. I know it's become political in the last 6 months, Who are the hottest cardboard cutout beer girls?
It's got to be a Mexican beer, man. Those are the hottest ones.
And this is the thing. I married a Mexican. Like, you know what I like, Soto. Like, I like
Half
the
Mexican
ones. Yeah, but in all the right places. You know what I mean? Like, she's there where it matters. But I feel like the Bud Light girls are the hottest. Corona's good. Modelo doesn't really have cardboard cutout girls. Dude, Mexican weather girls.
New Mexico.
It's like Mexican. It's like Mexican soap opera girls.
I'll tell you something right now. There's video clips of like Brazilian like game shows and like Brazilian like just news shows, and they just start like playing music, and the freaking news anchors just start twerking out of the middle of
they're not pretending. They're just like, oh yeah, you're really here because you really care about the high pressure zone coming over the hemisphere. It's like, no, we know why you're here, and we plan to deliver.
It's just they don't mess around, bro. They don't mess around. Spanish TV is just the best.
Michael Rain 3. Jimmy can't wait to get back to the brothel. See, this is where I think Jimmy should have delivered, because like, how good are the brothels in Buffalo compared to Vegas? Like, where does he have to go in Buffalo?
Dude, Toronto is right over the freaking bridge, and Toronto strip clubs are mwah.
So maybe Michael Rain III is onto something.
Maybe.
Jimmy G's like, all right, we're so close to the Canadian border. I want to get out of here. Because it did feel like the fourth quarter went as fast as possible. When Josh McDaniels punted on like 4th and 3 with like 7 minutes left. Like, yeah, like we're down so much, but he's just like, like, let's get out of here. My first thought was like, all right, he wants AJ Cole to be an all-pro. But now that Michael Rain brought this up, I'm like, oh, maybe it's like Jimmy G strings in his ear. He's like, hey, bro, Canada's like 45 minutes away, and it's a lawless land up there. America's hat. We'll let you do whatever you want. Can we end this? Can we stop the bleeding, please? Can we get out of here? Shima 86, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. We lost in the trenches, both sides of the ball. Yeah, that's for sure.
What I've been saying.
Is Chandler done with the Raiders? Sad seeing Renfro underutilized. So 3 very, very big talking points. Like, that's literally going to be like 80% of our podcast this week is the trenches, Chandler Jones, and Hunter Renfro. So let's start with the trenches. We average, again, we have to give credit to that Trey Tucker end around, 34 yards. Great play call, great play calling, great timing, 34 yards. But other than that, 14 carries, 21 yards. Brutal. And this was the game where I thought we would punch them in the face. This was the game was like, all right, 2 tight ends. Jakob Johnson's in there. Josh Jacobs can get back on track. They're generally, like, the Bills are generally reputation-wise pretty soft, run defense-wise. Couldn't do shit. Like, this was the game. Like, was it 2 or 3 seasons ago when the Josh McDaniels led offense of the Patriots ran like 50 times or something?
It was a couple years ago, yeah.
They threw it like 3 times. They threw it like 3 times. They threw the ball 3 times and ran it the rest of the game and won against the Bills. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. I was like, all right, I think this is going to look similar. Couldn't run for shit.
Yeah. Again, the offensive line played awful. They got beat up. They couldn't sustain blocks. They were getting pushed back. The little that we did push, the little blocking that we did do, I don't see that Jacobs did a good job of hitting the holes. And he was getting brought down by the first guy. He wasn't breaking tackles. It was a poor effort in the run game all around. One thing about that end around to Tucker, I didn't see any other motions like that, like a fake end around, anything to play off of that end around to make and that's what I look for. If you have a gadget play like that and it works, great. But see if you can run it again. You can play action off of it. You can have them come around one way and then stop and run the other direction. There's a lot of things you can do, but you've seen that something's worked, and you're keeping the defense guessing. But we didn't run that same action again all game, which is just telling me that you're running it just to run it.
Is Chandler done with the Raiders? You tell me. This has been his Twitter. This has been his not deleted social media. I won't tell, I just want to play. But if I don't play, I tell everyone, all caps. I wish you could play with my brothers. But Marky Mark is holding a huge secret that only I know. That's why I was asking for my protection. Sorry if I sound scared because I'm not, LOL. When I found out I was, LOL. Whatever the fuck this is, Drake in a ninja outfit. Get a lawyer if it's that bad. I'll tell him, say it in public, not me laughing my ass off. I don't know how you could possibly bring Chandler Jones back.
Yeah, he's done.
What he's doing. I don't know what you could possibly do. We'll get to Renfro in a second, but Rory Jacks, another super chat. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We have a really young team, and Jimmy G is the bridge. Just sucks watching until we get our franchise quarterback. And I've been saying this for a while, and it's been obvious, and Soto's been saying it too. Other than signing Jimmy G to $33 million, not 33 magical agent number, 33 guaranteed, 33 million guaranteed. Other than that, it's felt like a rebuilding year. It's felt like, all right, yeah, let's start over. Like we tried last season, it didn't work. Let's move on from our quarterback. Let's move on from our Pro Bowl tight end. Let's move on from all this shit. I think it's something like 80% of this roster is the Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler guys, like the guys that they've either drafted, signed, or extended. It's guys they've actually given money to. There's only like maybe a dozen guys from the old regime that are still on this, so it's their team and they're moving it forward how they want. Other than Jimmy G, it's felt like a rebuilding year, and so I think Rory, you have a really good. You're analyzing it pretty well. Like Jimmy G is definitely not the guy that's going to lead us to the Super Bowl 10 years from now. It's he's a bridge guy.
Yeah, and we all knew this with Jimmy G as quarterback. You had to be able to limit drives from the defensive standpoint. Mm-hmm. You had to be able to create some turnovers. You had to be able to run the ball. We got away with not running the ball last week because our defense played so well. But you can't do it when he can't win games when both the running game is awful and the defense is not doing well. And I don't know that many quarterbacks can do that on their own when you can't run and the defense is bad. So,
yeah, Jimmy G's he played poorly as well, but he wasn't getting in a good position to do well with the run with your all-pro running back getting negative yardage, bad pass protection. He made some bad decisions. Like those two interceptions, it was bad decision making. He also wasn't put in a good position.
I don't understand how throwing a ball to a receiver who has a defender boxed out, who the defender jumps over the top of the receiver and takes it away from his hands, how that's a bad decision.
Because he was defended and got intercepted.
The guy was directly behind him. I don't understand that. I don't get that.
So you're going to defend that interception? It wasn't Jimmy G's fault?
I mean, he threw the ball, so ultimately, yeah. But you're telling me, what about Josh Jacobs' effort on that play?
He was covered. Like, he was draped over.
Okay. What about his effort on the play? Getting the ball taken away from his hands. You're not going to say anything about that?
Well, he's a running back. That's not known for fighting balls. If it was Devante Adams, you're like
getting taken out of his hands. You're not going to say anything about that.
A 50-50 ball to your running back?
Taken out of his hands.
A 50-50 ball to a running back.
No, not a 50-50 ball. No. A 50-50 ball is they're next to each other and they both catch the ball. That's not a 50-50 ball. The defender is behind you, has to jump over the top of you, reach over the top of you, and rip the ball away from you.
It was nowhere near as that drastic as you're making it out. Josh Jacobs was
okay.
covered.
So let's tell me what. So Josh Jacobs has no culpability in this. I've asked you 5 times now. I've asked you 5 times.
What 5 times?
I've asked you 5 times.
I would have loved the situation if Carr was throwing the ball and you just being like, "Oh God, what a terrible throw!
Please,
just
please,
terrible."
Please.
Look at this guy
don't do
awful.
that. Don't do that. This has nothing to do with that guy. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the poor effort by Josh Jacobs on that play, letting the ball getting taken away from him.
Two things. One, bad decision because he was covered. Two, how can you expect Josh Jacobs, a running back, to be like, oh, let me throw a 50-50 ball to a running back?
That's not a 50-50 ball, RJ. You're not going to paint this narrative that way.
He was covered. He was absolutely covered. He had an inside hip, but he was covered.
So there's no culpability on him then.
Yeah, for sure. If
why did it take this long, RJ? Why did it take this long for you to say something about that? I asked you 5 different times.
Why are you asking about Josh Jacobs' 25% culpability when it was mostly on Jimmy G?
No, I'm asking you what the culpability was, and you just wanted to keep pushing.
It exists. It exists.
Okay, then just say
but it was a bad decision. But the primary problem was throwing in a covered running back who's not known as like this great pass catcher.
I'll tell you this right now: 19 out of 20 of those throws, the worst case scenario is that it's incomplete.
Bullshit.
19 out of 20 when a defender is directly behind you. Should it have been thrown? Probably not. It was probably not the best decision to throw that ball. But to get it intercepted, that's on Josh Jacobs for not fighting for that ball.
It's on your running back, who's not really known as a pass catcher, to make up for Jimmy G's bad decision. You just said it was a bad decision, right?
I did.
You just said it was a bad decision.
You know why? Because I'm a man.
It's up to Josh Jacobs.
Because I'm a man, and I'm able to speak intelligently about something and not squirm around things like you do.
I was wondering how you're going to defend Jimmy G today. I was very curious. And
he didn't play great.
You're going with,
I don't say that he played bad. He had
Josh Jacobs should have protected Jimmy G from his bad decisions.
Any player,
if it was Devante Adams, we'd be having a different discussion.
On the offensive side of the ball, when you have a defender behind you, should not be able to take the ball away from you, jumping over the top of you. Should not. You should be a better than that.
Devante,
in the pros,
Jacoby,
in
Hunter,
the pros, no.
We've got a conversation.
And then you want to go ahead and frame this. And you want to go ahead and frame this as a Jimmy G versus Carr thing? You're sick, dude. You're fucking sick.
You bring up Jimmy G versus
nothing
Carr
to do with this old quarterback that we used to have
50 times compared to every time I do it.
When did I bring him up?
You're a walking contradiction.
Okay. So now that you're able to say something, now you're going to just say, oh, well, just go ahead and say what you want to say. Derek Carr would have won this game, right? So just go ahead and say it.
You're arguing against yourself again. What are you talking about?
No, go ahead and say it.
You're talking about one play. I'm saying last season, there was a play where Derek Carr threw a pass. It bounced off the chest of his receiver, and you flipped out. What a terrible pass. I don't want to talk about
him anymore.
That was awful. That was god-awful. That was terrible. And then Jimmy G throws a pass to a
players on my team.
Running back. It gets intercepted, and you're trying to put it on somebody else. He's a walking contradiction. Michael Creamer, $13.13. I wonder if that's a number that means something specific. Is that like a code for something? Whatever it is, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's take some more calls. And by calls, I mean, not with that O-line, no quarterback would have performed well. Yeah, for sure. O-line played atrocious. It's so weird because last week against Denver, the run blocking wasn't good, but the pass blocking was phenomenal. Like unbelievably phenomenal. Jimmy G had all kinds of time. And even to Jimmy G's credit, the few times when he was under pressure, they still kind of like gave him lanes. Like he was still able to like move around. But it was night and day difference. Even without Von Miller, that's what's scary, that the Buffalo Bills, without the best defensive lineman in football, still maimed this offensive line.
It was all up the middle. It wasn't like we were our tackles were getting beat off the edge. It was all guard, center guard that was getting just pummeled.
Mhm.
And it was on both sides of the ball. We couldn't get any pressure up the middle. We got moved around on the running game, and it's terrible, man. It's terrible that we can't even run a game plan. You know, you can't run the ball. You can't stop the run. You're not going to win.
London Raider, can you talk about Soto's cat self-filleting again instead? I feel like your cats don't suck themselves off on the weeks of a loss the way they do on weeks of a win. Am I reading too much into this? Do I know your cat's self-suck off habits better than I should?
They feel my energy, man. When they're not, it's not a celebratory feeling. Then they go ahead and they're little sad like me. I gotta do better about that, man. Because pets really do take your energy. So I gotta be better about that.
It's if that's really a true thing, I don't know if that's like heartwarming or disgusting. That if like the Raiders win and you're happy, your cat's like, all right, we're feeling good here in the Soto Castle. I'm gonna blow myself. Then it's like, oh no, dude, Bills destroyed us. I'm going to the back alley and give hand jobs for kibble.
Yeah, you know the thing is the cats don't understand. Like it's got to be a win-win. Like if we win, then yeah, you suck yourself off. But if we lose, then you console yourself by sucking yourself off.
I'm telling you, like, is there a bad?
They haven't learned that. That's why we're in charge, RJ, and the pets aren't.
Have you seen the Johnny Football doc on Netflix?
Yeah.
Win or lose, we booze. Your cat should be like, win or lose, we blow ourselves. Is there a bad reason? Like, is there a bad reason for a beer? No. If you have the ability to blow yourself, is there a bad reason? No. Shima86 again. Too soon to say Tyree a bust. Short answer, yes. Definitely short answer, yes. Although I like to see something. Something.
What he's doing now, I've watched him when he's in the game on pass plays. He's just running directly into the tackle and trying to run him over. That's all he's doing. And that's I was saying it from the beginning of the year. He needs to just figure one thing out, one thing to do, a rip through, a spin move, even if it's a bad spin move. Try something different. Don't just try to run over the tackle, because if the tackle knows you're coming, like you're not fucking Lawrence Taylor. You're not just gonna run over. You're not Reggie White.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. He's gonna anchor, and he's gonna be able to at least slow you down enough, especially if you don't have a secondary move off it. Once you engage, try something different. He's just not doing anything any different. He's just getting right into the chest of the tackle. The tackle standing him up, and that's it.
Mark Davis's barber. That is a horrifying profile photo. Like, I'm gonna have nightmares. Is Herbert overrated? He can't win with his stacked team. Could he win with this Raiders team? He can't win because of Brandon Staley. Justin Herbert, the Chargers quarterback. He's not overrated. Sadly, it pains me to say it, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Forget Herbert's a really good football player.
He's going to be a problem for a long time.
But it's the rest of the team is just, they're doing as well as they are because of Herbert, not in spite of him.
Yeah. Would you, true or false? And you don't have to agree with me. I'm not putting you on the spot. The Los Angeles Chargers have a top 5 roster, talent-wise.
I don't know if they have it anymore. Bosa's a little injury prone. Max a year older. They lost a couple of linebackers. I don't know. I think Keenan Allen's a little older now. I think that window of them being like this juggernaut of a talented team, I don't think they're there anymore. I don't think that's them. I think it's going to have to be more on Herbert than it was. This team is really good.
I don't know, man. I would disagree. I would still say I'm with you, and that's aging, right? It's like an old, other than Herbert, Keenan Allen, Bosa, like all these guys, they're kind of like the window. The window was 2-ish seasons ago, where it's like everyone's in their prime, young quarterback on a rookie contract, go time. And the Raiders played them in week 17 in Allegiant Stadium, grabbed them by the trachea, threw them to the floor, stepped on their face, ripped their hearts out, showed it to them before they died, and then went to the playoffs, leaving them at home. And then the next season, they lost in the first round. What were they up? 28 to the Jags?
Yeah, so 24.
Like one of the biggest comebacks in NFL playoff history. Like those were the 2 years where they should have done something really special, really, really special.
Yeah,
and they didn't. And I blame. And I say blame. I should say credit. Brandon,
let's all just take a step back for 1 second. Okay. Next week we're at home. We have some things we need to figure out.
Prime time.
Do we see more Thayer Munford? Do we see more heavy? Now, look, I get that we can't always go heavy and run the ball, but we can go heavy and pass out of that. I think that was one of the things that I liked the most about John Gruden was that he passed a lot out of the heavy set, out of 2 tight ends and 6 offensive linemen, and he did a lot of passing and a lot of play action off of those.
Heavy set, like the women you're into.
From the bottom down, yeah, for sure. From the middle down, yeah, for sure. But look, the issue that we're running into right now is up the middle on both sides of the line. We're not doing anything. Our defensive tackles, our guards and centers on offense, and I don't care who's at quarterback. That's not going to matter. We're not going to win getting destroyed up the middle on both sides of the ball. Now, you come in next week, we right the wrongs. A lot of this stuff that's happening right now, a lot of these teams that are not playing well right now, they're going to fix these things as the season goes along, because especially nowadays, a lot of these teams don't play their players in the preseason. So a lot of these first 3-4 games are just kind of figuring things out. I don't want us to. I didn't say we were a playoff team last week. I'm not saying we're going to be one of the worst teams in the league this week. It's just let's take a little bit of time and see how this plays out. We win next week, we're 2-1, and that's not terrible. We're still tied for first place. Actually, we're in first place because we have a division win. So we're still in first place, everyone. The sky isn't falling quite just yet.
Currently, the Broncos are up 7-0 in the first against the Commanders. Obviously, the Raiders lost. The Chargers lost to the Titans, dropped to 0-2. Chiefs beat the Jaguars 17-9. So 1-1 Raiders, top of the division. 1-1 Chiefs, second place. 0-2 Chargers. Broncos on their way to being third in the division. So still number 1. We're 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 number 1. Big girls need to love RJ. You know who loves RJ randomly? And I don't know why.
Girls need love. He meant 2 as TOO.
Oh, need loves 2. Oh, but they got to pay.
I'm going to tell my chick
in the famous words of Quagmire.
I'm going to beat your ass.
Your girl's going to beat my ass?
Shoot you or something.
You have to pay extra?
So who loves RJ?
You know who loves RJ? Asian girls.
Oof.
I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. Asian girls love me. For whatever reason.
No clue.
No comment? No comment?
Well, I love Asian girls.
So Raiders fall today. Badly. On their faces. 38-10. No part of the game played well other than A.J. Cole. I feel like Josh McDowell's going to make A.J. Cole a first-team Pro Bowler at some point this season. 38-10 on the road. We return in prime time, Sunday Night Football, against your dad's rival of the Raiders, the Steelers. I'm not saying you, Soto. I'm saying all of our dads. That was the rival in the 70s. Pittsburgh Steelers. And a lot to work on. Run game, trash. Turnover game, awful. Defense, 2 sacks. No turnovers. Give up 38 points. No pressure. Absolutely brutal game. But keep things optimistic as best we can. Still early in the season. Plenty of time. Sam A, thank you so much for the super chat. RJ, is it Jaguars or Jaguars? I say Jaguars. What do you say, Soda?
I say it like the British say it. Jaguars.
Jaguar. Oh.
The
Like
Jaguars.
a hot British chick. Aluminium.
Aluminium. Schedule.
I say schedule.
I used to work for a company that was based in the UK, and oh man, some of those team meetings, Zoom meetings, whoo! British chicks
like
talking.
Camera off.
I'm just like down here like this.
Motion on.
Like Soda, why is your video shaking? I don't know.
I don't know. Tell me about the TPS reports again, and take your time.
Yeah,
Use very long words and
Jaguars.
speak slowly. Speak very slowly. Yeah, I say Jaguars.
Jaguars.
Wires. Jaguars. But I love to hear Jaguars. There was a commercial for the car Jaguars, and there was a chick that did it. It was during Star Trek when I was a kid. And I like to drive a Jaguar. I was like, oh my God, what's happening to me right now? I'm 9. Why are my shorts all tight? This doesn't make any sense. Hottest accent. Go.
Yeah, British accent's pretty fucking hot.
British is up there. Southern for a girl.
I can't sometimes though.
Love a Southern. Worst.
It sounds like a freaking boomhauer all the time. No,
I mean, if it's a dude, we're not talking dudes. So
no, look. I don't know that a British accent can get annoying to me. A Southern accent can definitely get annoying to me.
Worst accent, Jersey and Boston.
Fuck Mahada. Faster.
Awful. The like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Minnesota, like South Dakota, like you're from Fargo. Second worst. Other than that, I would say almost every chick accent is kind of hot. It's the flavor. Yeah, Japanese. Absolutely.
I like them Southeastern Asian girls because like they're a little tanned, you know. Woo! Don't get me started on those, you know, Indonesian, kind of like Vietnamese sometimes, maybe little Thai girls.
They're not too geisha, you know what I mean? Like too prissy for their britches. Not too well trained. They're kind of down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like them down and dirty. Southeast Asian girls. Anyone know any Southeast Asian girls? Send them my way.
Australian, big fan. Very big fan. You know what's kind of like
chinitas. Chill, bro.
What's that mean?
Chinitas. That's like a.
Sounds delicious.
Like it's a Spanish slang word for like an Asian girl. Because like Mexican people are super racist to everybody, so they call every Asian, they call them chinitas, like China, like chinitas, like.
Yeah. And boy is Chino, right?
Chinito, yeah.
Remember Brandon Gushigan, my wrestling coach?
Yeah.
His name was, when he fought like exclusively in Mexico, and his nickname was El Chino.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Okay. Dude, he's Japanese.
If you want
Japanese,
to know what's wrong,
but his nickname was El Chino.
Look, if you were like grown up, like super sheltered, your parents told you were perfect in every single way. If you want to know what the fuck is wrong with you, hang out with some Mexican people from Mexico. They will give you a nickname that will point out the worst part of you.
They'll make it abundantly clear how you're different.
Yeah, it's like, they'll know your genetic deformality right there.
It's like if you play quarterback for the Raiders and Josh McDaniels isn't your head coach. He'll tell you exactly what's wrong.
Terrible.
Raiders fall hard. They felt like a Dikembe Mutombo. Just
dry fist.
Gravity.
The dry
like
fist.
A giraffe. 38-10.
No, not today.
38-10. Awful game. We're going to try to forget it.
Bounce back.
As fast as possible. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me.